Saturday we were heading to Rookery waters. It was again blisteringly hot. The match was on Magpie and Raven. Now Raven's the newer it's still a few years old, the newer of the snake lakes. I drew on there the other week. Jay's the other snake lake. Magpie is a completely different beast. It's sort of, the best way to describe it is a big horseshoe with an island in the middle, but you go over a bridge and one side fishes off the island and then it goes round. The end, like the straight there's pegs 1, 2, 3, 4 have got pads, then it goes down, there's a little island down the bottom. That back end in the winter isn't very good. In the summer it's all decent in all fairness. Then it works its way up, narrows in on the island, there's a couple of pegs can reach across, and then it widens out into a bowl at the top. There's loads of pads all around that bit, there's some proper jungle warfare. Now that lake, when it fishes, until a couple of years ago, like £200, it was still the biggest weight lake of the three. But then all of a sudden casters started to work on there, and it just completely, that first year casters work was unbelievable. There were 300 and 400 pound weights all the time. It's all carp. There was even I think there were a couple of weights over 500 pound. It was just ridiculous. And it hasn't actually been fishing as well. It's probably been the worst lake of the three recently. But it's the only lake I know that when it's hot and flat calm like it was, they love it. They just come really shallow and you catch on the casters and that. And that was what the conditions were. So I really thought, even though it hadn't been fishing well, it was going to kick in on this day. And then they'd done the draw the night before, and I've been thinking to myself, I'd love peg 24 on Magpie, which is just as you come into that top bowl of the pads. You're not directly on the pads, so you can still play the fish and get them out and everything. But you've got all the fish that are in that area with the pads. And I've drawn 25, so I wasn't far away. I've never drawn 25. I've drawn 24 a couple of times. Had like 400 pound weights, my biggest match weights. So, but 25, it's just round. Looks down the lake as such, and you've got pads from about 5 metres to your left. It's a couple of metres that way to your left, and they go all the way out to, I don't know, 13 metres. Big bed there. And then there's a big bed opposite you. It's a bit further away. You don't really have to worry about it with fish. Peg 27 fishes between the two sets, and then 36 is on the point of the island looking at you, which is a noted fly, and that is a proper jungle warfare. The pads are from about 5 metres. There's loads of fish up that bit. There weren't particularly lots moving. The pads were moving about lots. Been for a walk around the lakes. We had ages to set up, and there were loads of dobbers down the bottom end and all down the straight, and we didn't have those because all the fish were in the pads. And some really good company. Rob Wright was on 24, great angler. Simon Colclough was on 27, and Daddy Fenson, Lewis and Jay's dad, was on 36. So really good company in all the pads there. I was fishing for a big weight, I'll be honest, so I've not set a lot I've set 4 rigs up. One of them was a throwaway as well. I'll look into them and they did change during the day. I'll talk to you about how they were originally set up and how I've actually caught on them. So, first of all is the shallow rigs. Now, like I say, it is a bit of jungle warfare, so it is quite crude in all honesty. I've just got my MTX margin out. I did fish a short 4 on it off my main pole just to stiffen it up for slapping about. But yeah, I wasn't taking any prisoners, and I've set up 2 rigs on 0.23 with an 0.20 hook length, down to a 14 with a band on just for fishing a caster. The 18 to 20 slick on both shallow rigs, and a different float than I normally use. It's just one of the inline Drennan dibbers at 0.2, just with a number 8 shot on the line, and that was it. The fish come really shallow for the casters on here, So this was my shallow rig. This has got 6-inch hook length on, then the float directly above it, and then there's there's 12 inches above the float, and that was my shallow one. And then I set one up with just another foot of line on it for just going through the water a bit for early on in the match. Then normally when you throw casters, they just come straight up, no messing, and you just catch them straight away. Like I say, there was another rig for deeper, which is that one there, and well, I set up a dobbing rig just in case. I won't go into it much because I'll do a little video on dobbing at some stage, but yeah, pretty standard dobbing rig, foot length of my little dobbing floats to use. Again, I'll cover that on a separate video. And then an edge rig. Now, some of the edges here are quite deep. I had I was in two minds what to do. I took some meat to chop up, because meat can work really well short, and some of the edges are deep, but maggots and pellets are really the way to go. So I've just set up with lots of dead maggots and micras, had a plumb around, didn't really want to go that way, it was deep anyway, and you've got all the pads straight away. So I've gone down this way, and it was about 3 foot, it was quite deep, and you've got massive long platforms there. The platforms are about, each platform or staging is about 3 metres long, and with concrete posts going in. And by the first concrete post, literally on half a top kit, I found 19 inches, which was the shallowest water by a long way. So I've actually moved my box and everything along my peg further towards the pad, so I could fish a full top kit there, just stay away from myself a little bit. I've fed it from the off, just with micras and dead maggots in a cup. The edges can be ridiculous on there. And then I've just thrown an odd big handful of dead maggots down on it. And that was my match. There was nothing else. Like I say, meat did come into it, but I just thought I was going to catch a big weight shallow. So I wanted to stay positive. So it was just then the 3 rigs and the token dobbing rig. So I've started out on it was a full margin pole. It was still, so I could throw casters like 8 metres. And I had no bites. It was bizarre. I thought it was going to be stupid, and I caught 1 rod on it after like a quarter of an hour. So I've gone tight to the pads, started feeding there, instantly caught some carp, and I was giving them some stick. I wasn't losing them, so that was good. I had 5 or 6, and either side of me had about the same. And then I've been marauded by ducks. Now, when they went into everyone's pegs, they stopped catching. It's not like F1s where you want the ducks there. These carp really don't like it, especially when they're shallow. And I had a mum duck and 10 ducklings. Because I was feeding near the pads and a bit of bait was going on there, they were just coming and standing on the pads and diving with my float, and I'd stopped feeding. Wasn't getting any bites when they were there. Just tried slap in, and the ducks were even going for that. I just had to come in and sit down the edge where I couldn't get a bite. Give them 5-10 minutes, let them go away, start feeding it again, and then within 5 minutes they'd be back. It was just a disaster, and everyone was catching. Simon Coldclough on 27 was catching really, really well. I just felt I was so far behind because I just wasn't catching. I couldn't get in my swim, and in the end I've just started feeding, but it took me a long while to do it, because I knew as soon as the ducks were I'd catch by the pad. I've just gone back to throwing like 3 metres away from the pads. And the ducks did still come in every now and again, but didn't bother me. What I actually did, I started feeding there again. You feed really heavy with casters, but I've slapped all around the pads, like landing the caster literally like that. You had to be quite a good aim just off the pad. I started to catch a few, and they were a decent stamp because a lot of the shallow fish on there, the carp, are like 2, 3, 4 pound, and then there's different bracket like 4 to sort of 8 pound, and they're the ones we want to catch for the big weights. And I was catching these slightly bigger ones, so I felt I was ticking over. I used a clicker because I just wanted to see how well I was doing, and the match is 6 hours, and after 3 hours I'd got 25 carp, so decent sort of weight. I still got 80 pound, but I was a long way behind still. Never really caught up. Simon was still catching really well. He was losing a few, but that's the nature of those pegs. So I really had to go for it, and luckily there have been an odd one starting to show in my feed. They'd started to go. There still haven't been really any dobbers there, but now I could see fish coming into the casters. So I've gone out with the shallow rig, the 6-inch deep and line, started to miss loads of bites, and they just sit, like I've said before with carp. They just sit in where you're feeding. They just sit there and they're like basking shots. They just go around. You can see them, and you miss so many bites. So we've gone a bit F1-y style, if I'm honest. It wasn't the prettiest rig by any means, but it did work. It's literally a 3-inch hook length, the float straight above the hook length, so we're fishing like 5 inches deep, and then 4 inches of line above the float. Really, really crude, but I'm just waiting for him to pull the elastic out, in all honesty. Again, I was a bit slow doing that. I don't feel completely match fit at the moment because I've been doing a lot of coaching, COVID, like not fishing for matches for a while, and then when I've come back, coaching's kicked off, which has been great, and I want to pursue that for the bigger picture down the line. Less work, hopefully more fishing. But for now, yeah, I've not felt quite match fit. I'm not quite on it. I said the same the night before. I should have won the night before. And it just took me a couple of little decisions, just take me slightly longer than they would have done this time last year. But yeah, we started motoring on that rig, and to be honest, the last 2 hours has been a blur. And I've gone from having 25 carp, I've ended with 79 carp. So I've had 55 carp the last 2.5 hours. It's been pretty good. Really, really motoring. They were a lot smaller, they were a lot of 2 and 3 pounders, but yeah, it was really, really good. I've lost probably 10 or 15. I've only lost one in the pads all day, but I've lost a few pulling a bit too hard at the net, in all honesty. Just because I felt so far behind, and everyone else did. When we finished, everyone thought Simon would be a good £50 ahead of me. So I was sure he'd won. Rob's had, I think, 190 next to me. He's caught really well shallow late on as well. I've weighed in 241, which I was really, really happy with. So they averaged £3, which is probably about right, because there were a lot of like £1.5, 2 pounders later on, and some bigger fish early. And then Simon's weighed in, and he's only actually weighed 209. I was shocked. He has lost quite a few in the pads, and he's caught the small stamp all day. I couldn't actually see what he's catching with some reeds in the way, but I could just see him when he was shipping back. He seemed like he had a fish on it all the time. So I was hoping that would be enough for the win, and I was winning until we've gone over onto the island. Jimmy Brooks has beat me by £4, and then Adam Playford on the end of the island on the point, again where there were loads of dobbers. He's beat me by £7, so I've been the third biggest weight in the match. But they do a continental payout. So the winner of the match is the winner of the match, and the winner of the other lake, Raven, is second, and so on. So I've actually ended up 5th, but it's still a really, really good pickup, because there's like 50 in a match there. So it's well worth even 5th and 6th place, a good payout. So that was worth doing, but I should have just tweaked and slapped around them pads and fed away from it a bit earlier. I should have had £300 if I'm honest, but really I did learn a lot. The two that have both beat me have caught dobbing. Like I say, there were a lot more dobbers around the other parts of the lake. Just haven't got the pads to hide in, so they're just swimming around in the open water. And then they've both caught down the edge. I've not had a bite down the edge if I'm honest. Nor's Rob really next to me. Simon's caught a few, he's got a lovely edge there. I just think I should have done like I'd thought, just fish meat a bit further away from me. With it being still, they just didn't seem to want to come in there. Or fished ground bait. Ground bait would have just drawn an odd one in, I think. Just needed somewhere to rest them, even though I've caught so well shallow. Every now and again you'd have a few minutes where they'd sort of drift away, and you just had to sit down the edge and throw it. But like I say, I've had one liner. It definitely wasn't right what I did. Should have chopped some meat up instead and fished the top 5 down the edge in like 3 foot, a bit further away from me towards the reeds. Would have definitely caught a few, but learnt a lot ready for the festival in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, really nice weekend. Sunday I did a bit of coaching at Hallcroft, fished really hard. Young lad, wanted to do some edge fishing and short and a bit of shallow. Caught a couple short, nothing in the edge at all. The lake was horrendous in all honesty. We think he had 13 carp in the end, mostly shallow, like I say, big ones as well, like they are at Hallcroft. And there was pleasure anglers everywhere on the lake we were on. And I think the 8 pleasure anglers around us, I think I've only caught 4 carp between them. So he's done really well. Probably he's had over £100, done really well. But I just felt a bit sorry for him because he did want to do some edge fishing, and we've not had a bite down there. So, but everywhere seems to have just fished really hard with all the heat this week. So this week we are 2 matches this weekend. We're back to Rookery Saturday for last practice before the festival next week, the end of next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That is going to be on Raven and Jay. Quite happy with either. Raven did fish a bit different than normal when I was on there the other week, so quite fancy a draw on there just to put a few things right. But I think you will probably want to be on Jay to win the match. It's going to be boiling hot again, so there's some big dobbers to catch in there, even though it's a snake lake. Like pegs on bends where you've got a bit more room, they'll be really good. And there'll be a lot of shallow fishing again second half of the match, I think. So yeah, looking forward to that. And Sunday I'm at Decoy. Me and my wife are both fishing the match. First match she's fished for a while. On Willows Lake. I've not fished on Willows since I drew on there on the Winter League final this year. Had a lovely day in all honesty on the Waggler, but a bit different this time. Bit of feeder fishing, lots of edge fishing. There's some massive weights being caught there again, some dobbing with it being hot, bit of shallow fishing, because we've got another festival there in 3 weeks time. We've got 4 festivals in the next 2 weeks, so we're going to have absolutely tons of videos to get back to you with. I will get some tips ones done this week given a chance. Like I say, I've been really late with work, and I've got loads of prep to do because I have got so much fishing the next couple of weeks, but we will get some more done. I've had a really interesting question, not about methods but about the thought process and winning mentality, and I think that's a really good thing to cover, because it's all well and good knowing the methods, but you've got to have the right frame of mind and approach your pegs in the right way, and I will go into that. I'll hopefully do it Friday night if I've got plenty of prep done. But until then, thanks ever so much for watching. Loads more subscribers again. We're nearly reached the milestone of 1,000 subscribers. I think we need 4 more, so please, if you haven't done, just share the page. Let's get some more interest. The more interest we get, the more videos we can do, more questions we get asked. So yeah, I'm trying to just push it as much as I can. You guys have all been great, so much good feedback. We'll just keep making the page bigger and better. So thanks again for watching, and I will catch you next time.